Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar regarding performance monitoring of your Windows Server infrastructure. My name is Tony Francola. I am one of the co-founders and one of the principal product owners in Acceleratio. SysKit is our brand new application, and today you are going to see some of the newest and the coolest features that we have in the current release. Acceleratio is a software development company from Zagreb, Croatia. We develop various kinds of tools. This is just one of them. We also have other tools for SharePoint and Office 365. Some of the world's largest corporations are using our tools to monitor their data centers in various countries, mostly in the United States and European Union. So SysKit is a new product that has evolved from our previous generation of products called Terminal Services Log and Remote Desktop Gateway Monitor. It allows you to monitor various kinds of servers, primarily Microsoft Windows-based servers. So anything that's based on Windows, we can track and monitor that for you. It doesn't really matter what you're running on top of your Windows server. It can be SharePoint, it can be SQL Server, it can be Microsoft Dynamics CRM or anything else that's based on Windows. Our today's key topic is performance monitoring. So we are going to discuss how you can track performance of your servers with our tools. So a little bit about how we are tracking all the information that I'm going to show you today. SysKit is a solution that's completely agentless. So if you're running, let's say, a medium-sized data center, you will just need to install it on a single server. This server is going to act as your central console. And then from this central console, you will be able to monitor all the servers that are located in your farm, and you will then easily be able to retrieve information from various types of servers in your data center. In case you're running a larger environment and you have multiple data centers that are distributed in different regions or different countries, you might have to deploy something we called a data gatherer. So this is a dedicated agent that sits in a different data center and then collects data from this particular data center and servers that are not located on a central location. In case you are also running a single location, single data center, but with a lot of servers, in that case you would still have to install multiple agents just performance-wise to make sure that you can retrieve information from all these servers in real time. The key here is, and especially today when we are going to discuss performance monitoring, we are looking to provide you with real-time reporting. So it's very important for us to gather the information as quickly as possible so that you can have dedicated reports and charts in real time. Of course, if you have a larger data center, a couple of thousands of virtual machines, a couple of thousand servers, it might take some time to retrieve all that, but in most cases you will be able to get information fairly quick. With SysKit, you can also monitor any kind of workstations. So if these workstations are Windows-based, you can also include them in the monitoring pool and monitor them from your SysKit installation. So this is how the application looks like. You have various types of reports like live charts and dashboards and reports in pivot format. So a lot of types of visualizations and reporting are available for you to see how to best present your data to your colleagues or somebody who might be interested in reviewing these for business purposes. I also said that we have a web-based application. In just a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you a live demo of that, but this is what we see on the screen. This is what we call a performance dashboard. So it's a live web-based application. It updates all the values in real time. So as we are gathering information about your computers and your infrastructure, these key performance indicators are going to be updated to match the rules that you have configured. So for example, on this screen you see that some of my servers are in the critical state, some of my servers are in the warning state, and the rest of them are in the green color, so it seems that they're doing just fine. When you have a overview. This gives you a quick look into your server, the one that's selected on screen, and it shows you the most important metrics. When it comes to performance counter, the most important metrics that we are tracking are CPU, memory, disk usage, so disk write and disk transfer and disk read times, queue length, and then we are also monitoring all the network adapters, and we are also tracking the amount of traffic that is being either sent or received by your computer that's being monitored, server or a workstation. On top of that, we are also tracking very detailed information about all these performance counters, but on the application level. The system also allows me to define my own thresholds. So if I have a server that's hosting, for example, Microsoft SQL Server, I'm fairly okay with that server consuming most of my memory because I know that SQL Server is going to consume all the memory it can. So I can define specific thresholds for SQL servers that are going to alert me only in the case where I really don't have any memory left. But for some other servers where you are hosting some specific or something else, some other application, you might want to configure your thresholds a little bit different. One final thing that we are going to show you today is something that we introduced just in this release, and that is services monitoring. So anything that's running on a server as a Windows service, you can monitor that with our tool. You can configure the services that you want to monitor, and then you can get alerts, or you can configure our tool to restart that particular service. So in case something happens and that a particular service is stopped, you want to get an alert immediately about that so that you can take appropriate action to resolve the problem. Maybe the server is running out of memory or disk space, or there is some problem. So if this is a production server, that's very important for you, and you want to make sure that that server is running. Okay, so this concludes the introductory slides. What you're having now on the screen is our Windows-based console that allows you to monitor all your servers. So what we are going to see on the screen right now is our performance dashboard. I'm just going to expand this so that you can get it full screen. So this is our demo environment. This is like a series of real virtual machines. Data is being gathered from all these servers, and it's being displayed to me in real time on this particular computer, in this particular console. And I can see all my servers, and the most important metrics are displayed in this grid. As I already said, we have a different console as well, a web-based one. And this one is very convenient because if you have a TV set in your data center, you can easily can run a browser on your television set, and then you can display this in like real time. You can see that the values are changing because the data is being retrieved as we speak. The web-based application is also fully featured, so it includes all the reports, and everything that you will be seeing today can also be seen in the web application in slightly different format due to different technology being used here, but the most reports are available as web-based reports. Just for simplicity today, I'm going to mostly stick to the Windows-based application. I mentioned when we started that our tool is completely agentless, so it's very easy to add an additional server. So everything I need to do from a central console, I need to click Add. I need to select the appropriate organizational units in my Active Directory. And the system is going to list me all the servers that are available in my Active Directory. In this particular case, I'm just going to add one server. So I just need to find it. And I just need to add it to my monitoring pool. And in just a couple of seconds, this server is going to be added to the list of all the servers that I have. And then I can easily find that server by just searching for it. It's going to take a couple of minutes for our service to retrieve information about this server. So we are going to check what kind of operating system this server is running, all the inventory stuff like the number of CPUs and the memory and stuff like that. And then we are going to start to retrieve information about current performance usage and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go back to the dashboard. You have a lot of servers, so I'm just going to focus on just one today. So we are just going to take a look at SQL 2012. So this is one of our demo SQL servers. So let me just find that one. I'm going to filter. The grid is just going to show me that one. And as you can see, this one is in the warning state. There is something that's potentially causing problems for this server. So in order to see more details about that server, I'm just going to double click on that name. This is going to open an overview dashboard for this particular server. So this is showing me in real time last 15 minutes of activities on this server. So it's a fairly typical situation where SQL Server is consuming most of its memory, and that's okay. So as you can see here, the majority of memory is already in use. Its CPU seems to be fairly okay. There is nothing special for this particular server, so it doesn't consume much CPU. And below that you will see additional counters that are available for disks. We have a lot of disks in this demo environment, and it seems that it's potentially having problem on an E-disk, and this disk has a slightly higher queue length value. And as I was speaking, the value just changed, so the queue length value dropped below our threshold, and this server should be in the non-warning state as of now, so it just take a couple of seconds for it to update. We also see network usage, so we only have one network adapter here, and this one is also in a fairly typical state. And as you can see, SQL Server Windows NT process, and that's the process that's hosting your SQL Server, is consuming a lot of memory. Of course, you would be looking into charts like this one and a dashboard like this one in situations where you would want to find out, is there something that's causing problems for my server? What's going on? What are the most important performance counters doing? And what I need to do here in order to fix some situation, especially if you are experiencing slow load, or if your server is slow for some reason, and this can be very useful to detect a potential problem or just to monitor the overall situation. What's kind of beneficial here? You can easily switch to a different server. So if you are not sure, if you are running a farm of SQL servers and you want to see a different server, in just one click, you can easily change to an additional server that you want to see. So as you can see, this one is in slightly different condition. It's consuming less memory than the previous one, but overall the amount of percentage-wise, this server is consuming a lot more memory on this server, and there is not enough free memory on this server, and that's why the dashboard is indicating that there is something wrong, and that we should take a look into this particular server. So all the reports that we have here are real-time, and we can expand them by different metrics. So for example, if I want to take a look at our server and I want to look into real-time, I'll just click here. Let me just expand this just for a bit for you. Okay, so here in the real time, I can see all the applications that are running on my server, and as I already expected, SQL Server process is consuming most of my memory, which is, as I said already, fairly typical for any SQL Server. If I had a rogue application running, something that I don't want to run on this server, something that should not be consuming that much memory or CPU or disk or something like that, something that's causing problems for my server, I can just easily right-click here and I can terminate this process. I'm not going to do that because we still need our SQL Server to run. On top of that, we also have the ability to see history. So sometimes real time is not enough. So I'm just going to jump into our SQL 2012, back to that server. And then I'm going to filter by application. I'm just going to unselect all these, and I'm just going to select the SQL Server main process, and to see what has been going on with this one. So I'm just going to select this one, filter. This is a real-time report, so it's just going to show me one row, but I don't want to see that. I want to jump into history, and I want to see what's going on here. Let me just close the ribbon as well, and I'm just going to close the filters also. So here I can see the history for this particular application. So what has happened to it over the course of time. So let's say I want to see last 7 days. Here we can monitor all the key metrics for this particular application. So we want to know the CPU usage. So this is very useful if you're doing some kind of diagnostics. So let's say somebody reported that last week on Friday we had a huge outage of some important application. Then I can go back here and I can troubleshoot what might have caused it. For example, if my end users are reporting that we are having problems with our web front ends with some web application, it doesn't really mean that the web application is causing it. Maybe a backend SQL Server is having problems. Maybe there is like a SQL query that's being performed that's causing so much CPU and memory usage that you cannot handle that with the current infrastructure. And then a report like this one that can go into history can help you maybe potentially find out what is causing problems in this application. So as I said, we have a couple of important metrics here. So one is CPU, and as you can see, it's fairly typical. It doesn't go about 20% on average. I can also zoom in, so if I want to check what exactly is this peak doing, so we have like brief peaks of CPU usage, which is fairly typical, but on average this doesn't go over 20% when I zoom out, so it's fairly typical for CPU of SQL Server to work like this. If you had a SQL Server that was like consuming 90 to 100% of memory, that would be a problem. So that would mean that there's like a lot of activities and that this server is potentially underpowered to serve your databases in such a way. Memory, this is usually a flat line because SQL Server, when it boots up, it consumes all the available memory depending on the setting that you have configured on your SQL Server. So you can choose to consume up to a certain level and then leave the other memory free. So this is how this server is configured. It's almost straight line. We can also monitor disk activities. So when there is like a lot of activities, SQL Server is performing a lot of writes and reads, and in this case this server is it seems that it's serving databases that are most commonly being read than written to. So this helps me troubleshoot and see if when somebody says my SQL Server is slow, the first thing that you need to check are these key metrics like CPU, memory, and disk activities to verify that everything is being performed as should. You can choose different time periods, you can choose different servers, you can choose different processes, you can even compare. If you had like multiple SQL Server instances on a single server, you would be able to compare and see what exactly is different between these two servers that seem to be identical but are not showing the same performance results. I already mentioned that we can configure thresholds. So if we go back, let's go back to the overview. So currently this server is in green state, so everything seems to be fine. There are no critical indicators, so everything seems to be okay. I'll jump back here really quickly. So I'm going to show you how you can configure thresholds. So let's say I want to configure a particular threshold. I'll just go to the Manage Thresholds button. I'm going to click new to create a new group, and I'm just going to call it my custom group. And then here I'm going to select that group, and I can configure different thresholds. So when you purchase SysKit, we are going to deliver a group of predefined threshold groups. So these are for most common Microsoft roles of Windows servers like SQL and remote desktop services and SQL servers and Citrix XenApps and stuff like that. So we have already created threshold groups based on Microsoft recommended best practices for these types of servers and these types of applications that are running on top of them. But you might have something specific, and you might want to create something that's like for a CPU that's going to alert you as soon as CPU goes over, let's say, 40%, and it's going to be critical as soon as you go over 50%. So you can configure any of the performance counters that we are currently monitoring, and you can adjust them to match any need that you have. The only thing that you need to do when you do that is just add servers to that group, and that's it. So for example, here I have created a custom group for Dynamics CRM SQL. So I have one SQL here, and I said alert me as soon as my available memory disk space goes over a certain threshold, and as soon as that happens, I want to see this server in red state. So I can easily configure that and say my warning is as soon as my server goes over 8 gigs, and my critical is as soon as it goes below 4 gigs. So I have just did that. I have added one server to that group. I'm just going to save this. And now if I go back to my dashboard, and if I select that server from the screen, so I'm just going to unselect my previous one, and I'm going to go to SQL 2014. You see it's in red state. So although this server has a lot of memory and a lot of disk free space, I'm currently in red state because my threshold has been configured to indicate to me that I don't have enough memory. So although this server has almost 24 gigs of RAM, in this particular case I have configured my threshold to be a little bit different, and I configured it to alert me because I might not have enough memory for the operations that this server is currently performing. In many cases, thresholds are just one dimension. So sometimes we can just give numbers here, and we can say, well, when it goes above this number or below this number, put it in the red state and send me an email. So every time your server goes to either warning or critical state, the system can send you an alert via email so that you can react if this is like a critical production server that always needs to have more than certain value of memory or CPU or disk or anything that you see on this screen. But in some cases you might want to have additional options to configure it. So I'm now going to show you how to do that. So this is performed on something we call alerts. We have a built-in artificial intelligence that helps you fine-tune all these alerts. Because if you configure alert to send you an email every time a server goes over 50% of CPU, the chances are that you are going to receive a lot of emails. So sometimes you can fine-tune this, and you can train our application to be a bit smarter than original like basic thresholds allow you. So if I click here, I'm going to see the list of all my alerts. I can then filter by specific server. So let's go to SQL 2014, and I can see that I have received a lot of high alerts. So these are critical alerts, and I can easily select all these alerts, and I can say, well, these alerts are not that important, and I can reduce the level of importance. And if I reduce it to low, then I won't be receiving that many emails because all the low emails are not being sent by default. So even though I have configured something to be my threshold, I can train the system to reduce the number of emails for some particular cases and allow the system to independently learn and to use the machine learning algorithms to be smarter when it should or when it should not send me an email for some particular case. In case you decide to configure this and use it, it will take some time for you to train the system, but after a certain period of time you'll be able to get much better alerts for you and your team. One final thing that I want to show you today is the ability to monitor and configure service monitoring. So let's say that I have a SQL Server here. I'm just going to find one in my administration section. So let's go to SQL 2014 again. There's this button in the ribbon called Manage Services. When I click on that one, it's going to list me all the services that are currently being monitored. So currently I don't have any services that are being monitored. If I click Change, the system will automatically recognize the type of server role of this server. So if this server is running SQL Server or Exchange or SharePoint or Microsoft CRM or something Citrix, the server is going to, our system is going to automatically recognize what kind of services might be important. And of course, you can always switch to all services. But in this case, it has recommended and it has recognized that Microsoft SQL Server, it is important and it should be monitored. So if I just switch to this side, the service will start to monitor this particular service. And then I have options to do two things basically. One is to configure the service to send me an email when this service is stopped. So if something stops the SQL Server, I'll check this box, and immediately when we detect that your service has been stopped, you will receive an email from our service saying, well, on this particular server, SQL Server is not running. And then you can take appropriate action to resolve the problem. In some scenarios, you might have services that are, let's say, not reliable, that are having problems. Then you have this nice option that allows you to automatically restart the service. So if something happens to your SQL Server and you know that this thing, for whatever reason, happens periodically, you can easily restart the service if the system detects that the service has been stopped. So this is the option that allows you to do that. Once I click that, the system is going to start monitoring this service and it's going to alert me if something happens, and I'll see it on my dashboard and I'll see an email. So I have an additional layer of monitoring that helps me to track all my services just to make sure everything is okay. So this concludes our basic demo. You can always send us an email to our support@extraratio.net and somebody will assist you as soon as possible. Thank you all for your time and have a nice day.